The terror of the void, the shadow that hunts stars in the darkness between stars. Terror had a name. The shadow Leviathan drifted through space like a predator hunting prey, its massive hull stretching over 15 kilometers of twisted metal and alien technology. For 3 centuries, this ship had been the nightmare that haunted every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. No fleet had ever damaged it. No weapon had ever pierced its defenses. No species had ever survived a direct confrontation with its merciless commander. Captain Zara Blackthorne stood on the bridge of her vessel, her 6 arms moving across holographic controls with practiced ease. Her species, the Void Hunters, had been extinct for 2 millennia, wiped out by a galactic coalition that feared their power. She was the last of her kind, and she had spent centuries making the galaxy pay for that genocide. The Shadow Leviathan was her monument to revenge, built from the wreckage of 1,000 defeated fleets and powered by technology stolen from the ruins of dead civilizations. The ship's most terrifying ability was its phase drive, a device that allowed it to slip between dimensions. One moment it would be visible on sensors. The next it would vanish into the void between realities, only to reappear behind enemy lines with devastating effect. No shield could block an attack that came from another dimension. No armor could withstand weapons that ignored the basic laws of physics. The Shadow Leviathan didn't just defeat its enemies. It erased them from existence. The Galactic Council's fear. The Andromedan Republic had tried to stop the Leviathan 50 years ago. Their proud armada of crystal ships, each one a masterpiece of technology and art, had confronted Blackthorne near the Spiral Nebula. The battle lasted less than an hour. When the phase drives activated, the Leviathan had appeared inside their formation, tearing through their fleet like a blade through silk. The survivors spoke of watching their flagship simply disappear, pulled into a dimensional rift that closed behind it forever. The Zephyrian Empire had assembled the largest fleet in galactic history to hunt down the Shadow Leviathan. 800 warships, commanded by their greatest admirals, had cornered Blackthorne's vessel in the void reaches. They thought numbers would overwhelm even the Leviathan's terrible power. They were wrong. The ship had phased through their battle lines, appearing and disappearing at will, striking where defenses were weakest. By the end of the battle, the Zephyrian fleet was nothing but drifting debris and distress signals that no one dared answer, even the ancient celestial consortium. Beings of pure energy, who had transcended physical form millennia ago, had been helpless against the Shadow Leviathan. Their attacks passed through the ship when it phased, while Blackthorne's weapons could somehow strike their energy forms, even across dimensional barriers. After losing 3 of their eternal members, the consortium had retreated to their hidden realm and declared the material universe beyond their protection. The pattern was always the same. A civilization would grow bold enough to challenge the Shadow Leviathan. They would assemble their finest ships, their best weapons, their most brilliant strategies. And then they would meet Blackthorne in the cold emptiness of space, where all their pride and power meant nothing against a ship that existed partially outside reality itself. Earth's first encounter. Merchant vessel Terra's Pride was just finishing its cargo run through the outer rim when the sensors detected something impossible. A massive ship had appeared on their starboard bow, materializing out of nothing like a ghost made solid. Captain Rodriguez knew immediately what they were facing. Every spacer in the galaxy knew the silhouette of the Shadow Leviathan, even though few who saw it lived to tell the tale. "This is Captain Zara Blackthorne of the Shadow Leviathan." The transmission crackled across their communications array, the voice carrying the weight of centuries and the promise of death. "Your vessel carries supplies for the human colonies on Kepler Prime. You will surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate termination." The crew of the Terra's Pride looked to their captain, waiting for the order to comply. It was what every other species did when faced with the Shadow Leviathan. Surrender, hope for mercy, and pray that Blackthorn would be satisfied with cargo and leave the crew alive. But Captain Rodriguez was human, and humans had a different response to impossible odds. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth merchant vessel Terra's Pride," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. "Our cargo is medical supplies destined for civilian populations. We will not surrender it to pirates, regardless of their reputation." The communication channel fell silent for a moment, and the crew of the Terra's Pride could almost feel Blackthorn's surprise across the void. No species had ever refused her demands. No captain had ever dared to call the legendary Shadow Leviathan a pirate ship. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human." Blackthorn's voice carried a hint of amusement mixed with deadly promise. "Your species is new to this galaxy. You have not learned the proper respect for power. Allow me to educate you." The lesson in fear. What happened next was recorded by the Terra's Pride's emergency beacon and transmitted to Earth before the ship's destruction. The Shadow Leviathan simply vanished from normal space, phasing into the dimension between realities. For 30 seconds, the human vessel drifted alone, its crew hoping that perhaps the legendary ship had departed. Then reality tore open like fabric, and the Leviathan emerged directly above them. The attack was brief and methodical. Energy beams that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously struck the Terra's Pride from impossible angles. The ship's shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, offered no protection against attacks that bypassed three-dimensional space entirely. The hull buckled and tore, atmosphere venting into space in glittering streams of ice crystals. But even as their ship died around them, the crew of the Terra's Pride continued to broadcast their defiance. "This is Rodriguez," the captain's voice crackled through the static of failing systems. "Tell Earth that the Shadow Leviathan is real. Tell them that someone needs to stop this monster. Tell them that we died free." The transmission ended as the merchant vessel broke apart, its cargo of medical supplies scattered among the debris. Captain Blackthorn watched the destruction with satisfaction, already planning her next target. Earth's colonies were rich and poorly defended. The newest members of the galactic community would learn the same lesson as all the others. The Shadow Leviathan was unstoppable, and resistance only made the inevitable destruction more painful. Earth's declaration, the news of the Terra's Prides. Destruction reached Earth within hours, carried by quantum communications across the galaxy. The loss of one merchant vessel and its crew should have been a minor tragedy in the vast scale of galactic commerce. Other species would have mourned their dead, rerouted their trade convoys, and hoped that the Shadow Leviathan would find other prey. But Earth's response was different. Admiral Marcus Kane stood before the United Earth Assembly, his weathered face grim as he addressed the representatives of humanity's home world. Behind him, a holographic display showed the twisted wreckage of the Terra's Pride and the estimated path of the Shadow Leviathan toward human space. "Fellow citizens of Earth," Kane began, his voice carrying the authority of 40 years of military service, "we face a threat unlike any in human history. The Shadow Leviathan has terrorized this galaxy for 3 centuries. It has destroyed fleets, conquered worlds, and murdered billions of innocent beings. Yesterday, it added 37 human souls to that count." The assembly hall fell silent as Kane continued his address. "Other species have tried to appease this monster. They have fled from their homes, abandoned their trade routes, and hidden in the shadows while the Shadow Leviathan grows stronger. I stand before you today to propose a different course of action." The Admiral's words rang through the hall with the force of absolute conviction. "We will not run. We will not hide. We will not allow this creature to terrorize one more innocent world Earth hereby declares war on the Shadow Leviathan and its commander, Zara Blackthorn. We will hunt this ship across the galaxy if necessary. We will unite every species, every fleet, every weapon in existence, if that's what it takes. But we will end this threat forever. The galaxy's response, the announcement of Earth's declaration of war, sent shockwaves throughout the galactic community. Emergency sessions were called in every major council chamber as species that had never spoken to each other scrambled to understand what the newcomer humans were planning. Most assumed it was the bravado of an inexperienced species, a desperate bluff that would collapse as soon as they faced the reality of the Shadow Leviathan's power. Ambassador Kai Roth found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. The cylindrical chamber that housed the galaxy's governing body had never seen such chaos, as representatives demanded explanations, offered condolences, and warned of the catastrophic consequences of provoking Blackthorn. The human delegation must reconsider this course of action, declared Senator Vex of the Andromedan Republic, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated energy. The Shadow Leviathan has destroyed fleets far more powerful than anything Earth can assemble. This declaration of war will only bring devastation to your worlds. The Zephyrian Empire agrees, added Admiral Korath, his reptilian features twisted with concern. We have faced this monster and witnessed its power. No single species can stand against the Shadow Leviathan. Even our combined fleets were insufficient. But Ambassador Roth stood firm, his human determination evident in every word. We appreciate your concerns, and we understand the risks. But humanity has a simple philosophy. Evil triumphs when good people do nothing. The Shadow Leviathan has murdered trillions of innocent beings across this galaxy. That ends now. And how exactly do you propose to accomplish what every major power has failed to achieve? Asked Counselor Zara of the Celestial Consortium, her voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom and bitter experience. Roth smiled, an expression that sent chills through the assembled delegates. By doing something no one else has tried. We're going to unite this galaxy against a common enemy. Every species, every fleet, every weapon. The Shadow Leviathan may be unstoppable against individual civilizations, but it has never faced the combined might of the entire galaxy working together. The coalition forms. What happened next surprised even the humans themselves. Species that had been enemies for millennia began to listen to Earth's proposal. The Andromedan Republic, still bitter over their defeat at the Spiral Nebula, agreed to provide their advanced shield technology. The Zephyrian Empire committed their heavy assault ships, eager for revenge against the creature that had humiliated their fleet. Even the ancient Celestial Consortium emerged from their hidden realm, offering their energy manipulation abilities to the growing coalition. Captain Sarah Chun found herself at the center of this unprecedented alliance, tasked with coordinating military forces that had never worked together before. Her command ship, the Unity, became a symbol of humanity's vision for the galaxy. Its bridge hosted representatives from dozens of species, each bringing their unique technologies and strategies to bear against their common enemy. The key is coordination, Chun explained to her multi-species staff during their first joint planning session. The Shadow Leviathan has always faced individual fleets using their own tactics and technologies. But we're going to hit it with everything at once. Andromedan shields, Zephyrian firepower, celestial energy manipulation, and human determination. It's never faced anything like this before. The Coalition's first engagement with the Shadow Leviathan came at the Nexus Station, a vital trade hub. Near the galaxy's core, Blackthorn had been terrorizing merchant vessels in the area, growing bolder as she prepared for her assault on human space. When the Coalition fleet arrived, she found herself facing not the scattered resistance she expected, but a coordinated armada unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The battle lasted for hours, with the shadow Leviathan phasing in and out of reality as it tried to find weaknesses in the Coalition's formation. But for the first time in centuries, Blackthorn found her enemies adapting to her tactics. When she phased into another dimension, celestial energy beings followed her there. When she emerged to attack, coordinated fire from a dozen different species overwhelmed her defenses. For the first time in 300 years, the Shadow Leviathan retreated from a battle. As Blackthorn's ship limped away from the Nexus station, its hull scarred by weapons it had never encountered before, the galaxy realized that something fundamental had changed. The unstoppable force had met an immovable object, and for the first time, the object had held its ground. The real war was just beginning. Unity. Against the dark, the hunter becomes the hunted. Retreat from Nexus Station marked the beginning of the end for Captain Zara Blackthorn, though she refused to acknowledge it. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Shadow Leviathan bore scars from battle. Sections of its hull showed the distinctive burn patterns of Andromedan crystal weapons, while deep gouges revealed where Zephyrian plasma cannons had found their mark. Most disturbing of all were the areas where reality itself seemed warped, evidence of the Celestial Consortium's energy manipulation abilities reaching across dimensional barriers. Blackthorn stood in her private chambers, studying the damage. Reports with growing fury. Her ship's self-repair systems were already working to heal the wounds, but the psychological impact was far more significant than any physical damage. The galaxy had seen the Shadow Leviathan bleed, and word was spreading, faster than light itself, across every communication network in known space. Captain, her first officer Kresh approached cautiously, his insectoid features betraying his nervousness. The crew is ... concerned. Many are suggesting we withdraw to the Outer Rim until repairs are complete. Blackthorn's response was swift and violent. Her lower arms grabbed Kresh and lifted him off the deck, while her upper arms drew weapons from her belt. "The Shadow Leviathan does not retreat," she hissed, her voice carrying the deadly promise that had terrorized 1,000 worlds. "We are the apex predator of this galaxy. One battle changes nothing." But even as she spoke the words, Blackthorn knew they were no longer entirely true. The Coalition had done something unprecedented. They had adapted to her tactics in real time. When she phased the ship into parallel dimensions, energy beings had followed her there. When she emerged for surprise attacks, coordinated fire from multiple species had been waiting. The humans had somehow convinced natural enemies to work together, creating a force that could counter her greatest advantages, Earth's growing influence back. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Kane studied tactical reports in the Pentagon's newly constructed Galactic Operations Center. The massive facility hummed with activity as human officers worked alongside alien liaisons, coordinating the largest military alliance in galactic history. Holographic displays showed the positions of Coalition fleets throughout human space, all converging on a single objective: the complete destruction of the Shadow Leviathan. "Admiral," Captain Sarah Chun's image flickered to life above the central projector, her transmission coming from the bridge of the Unity, somewhere near the Spiral Nebula. "We've confirmed Blackthorn's position. She's holed up in the void reaches, using the gravitational anomalies there to mask her sensor signature." Kane nodded thoughtfully. "Smart choice. The void reaches have been a graveyard for ships for millennia, but it also means she's trapped herself in a region with limited escape routes." "That's the idea," Sean replied with a grim smile. "The Andromedans have positioned their crystal ships at all the major exit points. The Zephyrians are setting up a heavy weapons perimeter. Even the Celestial Consortium has agreed to maintain energy barriers across the dimensional boundaries. When we move in for the final assault, there will be nowhere for her to run." The strategy was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted in galactic warfare. Instead of trying to match the Shadow Leviathan's individual capabilities, the Coalition was using coordinated tactics that played to each species' strengths while covering their weaknesses. It was a fundamentally human approach to warfare. When faced with a superior enemy, change the rules of engagement, not the science of victory. Dr. Elizabeth Warren worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the research vessel Breakthrough, analyzing every scrap of data collected from the Nexus Station battle. As Earth's leading expert on dimensional physics, she had been tasked with finding a permanent solution to the Shadow Leviathan's phase drive technology. Her breakthrough came at 0347 hours ship time when she discovered something that changed everything. The phase drive doesn't actually move the ship between dimensions, she explained to Admiral Kane via encrypted transmission, her voice trembling with excitement and exhaustion. It creates a localized dimensional bubble around the vessel, essentially making it exist in multiple realities simultaneously. But there's a weakness. Kane leaned forward in his chair, studying the complex equations scrolling across his display. What kind of weakness? The phase state requires enormous amounts of energy to maintain, and it has to be perfectly synchronized across all dimensional layers. Warren continued, her words coming faster as she explained her discovery. If we can disrupt that synchronization, even for a few seconds, the ship will be forced back into normal space and vulnerable to conventional weapons. How do we disrupt it? Warren's smile was predatory. Harmonic resonance. If we can match the exact frequency of the phase drive and then introduce a counter-resonance, we can collapse the entire system. I've already transmitted the specifications to Captain Shun. The Coalition fleet can modify their weapons to generate the necessary frequencies. The final gambit, Captain Zara Blackthorne, felt the trap closing around her like the walls of a tomb. Her sensors showed Coalition ships at every exit point from the void reaches, their formations too coordinated to be natural. The humans had somehow convinced species that had been enemies for millennia to work together with mathematical precision. It was an achievement that should have been impossible, yet the evidence surrounded her on all sides. Captain Kresh reported from his station, his voice barely concealing his fear. We're detecting massive energy buildups from all Coalition vessels. They appear to be charging some kind of coordinated weapon system. Blackthorne studied the tactical display with growing unease. She had faced many enemies over the centuries, but none had ever showed this level of organization and preparation. The Coalition wasn't just trying to defeat her through superior numbers. They were trying to counter her most fundamental advantage. Begin phase sequences, she ordered, her voice carrying the authority of 3 centuries of victories. We'll hit their command ship first, then phase out before they can coordinate a response. The Shadow Leviathan began its transformation, reality bending around the massive vessel as it prepared to slip between dimensions. But as the phase drive reached full power, something went wrong. The familiar sensation of dimensional transition stuttered and failed, leaving the ship trapped in normal space. Phase drive is malfunctioning. Kresh shouted over the sound of alarms. Something is interfering with the dimensional synchronization. Through the viewports of her bridge, Blackthorne saw the Coalition fleet opening fire. But these weren't ordinary weapons. Each beam carried a harmonic frequency precisely tuned to disrupt the Shadow Leviathan's phase capabilities. As the resonant energy washed over her ship, the phase drive systems began to overload and fail. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Shadow Leviathan was trapped in normal space with nowhere to run. The battle for the galaxy's soul. The final battle began with a fury that shook the fabric of space itself. Every ship in the Coalition fleet opened fire simultaneously, their weapons coordinated to overwhelm the Shadow Leviathan's conventional defenses. Andromedan crystal beams carved through armor that had withstood the assault of entire fleets. Zephyrian plasma cannons melted hull plating that had been forged in the hearts of dead stars. Human missiles, guided by AI systems that learned and adapted in real time, found weak points that hadn't existed moments before. But Zara Blackthorne was not merely the captain of the galaxy's most feared warship. She was its last and greatest warlord. Even trapped in normal space, the Shadow Leviathan fought back with devastating fury. Its weapons, collected from 1,000, defeated civilizations, unleashed destruction that had no equal in known space. Coalition ships died by the dozen, their crews sacrificing themselves to keep the monster from escaping. Captain Sarah Chun watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the Unity, coordinating the combined assault with mathematical precision. "Target the phase drive generators," she ordered through the tactical network. "Don't let them repair the dimensional systems." On the Unity's bridge, representatives from every major species worked side by side, their ancient prejudices forgotten in the face of their common enemy. Andromedan tacticians calculated optimal firing solutions, while Zephyrian warriors coordinated assault patterns. Celestial beings channeled pure energy into the ship's weapons, while human engineers kept the systems running beyond their design specifications. It was everything Earth had promised when they first declared war on the Shadow Leviathan. Unity in the face of absolute evil, cooperation transcending the barriers of species and history. The price of victory the battle raged for hours with, both sides taking devastating losses. The Shadow Leviathan's guns had claimed dozens of coalition vessels, each one representing the hopes and dreams of entire worlds. But for every ship they lost, 2 more took its place. The galaxy had finally found the courage to stand together, and they would not be denied their victory. The end came suddenly. A concentrated barrage from the Celestial Consortium overloaded the Shadow Leviathan's main power core, sending cascading failures throughout the massive vessel. Emergency lights flickered and died as primary systems shut down across the ship. In her private chambers, Captain Zara Blackthorne felt her ship dying around her. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Coalition Fleet." The transmission crackled through the Shadow Leviathan's failing communication systems. "Captain Blackthorne, your ship is crippled, and your crew is defeated. Surrender now, and we will guarantee fair treatment according to galactic law." Blackthorne laughed, the sound carrying 3 centuries of bitterness and rage. "You think this is over, human? You think killing one ship changes anything? There are others like me out there, other predators waiting in the dark between stars." "Maybe," Chun replied, her voice carrying quiet strength. "But now the galaxy knows they don't have to face them alone. Surrender, Captain. Your war is over." The last of the Void Hunters looked around her bridge, seeing her crew waiting for orders that would never come. The Shadow Leviathan was dying, its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into the cold vacuum of space. Her reign of terror was ending not in glorious battle, but in simple, inevitable defeat. "I am the last of my species," Blackthorne said quietly, her words transmitted across every channel in the Coalition fleet. "I have spent 3 centuries making this galaxy pay for their extinction. But I see now that hatred only breeds more. Hatred, violence only creates more violence. Perhaps it is time for the last Void Hunter to rest." The new dawn, the destruction of the Shadow Leviathan, marked the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. For the first time in recorded history, species that had been enemies for millennia had worked together toward a common goal. The Coalition, that Earth had forged in the crucible of war, evolved into something unprecedented. A true galactic alliance based on mutual respect and shared purpose. Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest space station, watching as ships from dozens of different species docked at the facility's vast ports. A station christened New Unity served as headquarters for the Galactic Cooperation Council, the governing body that had emerged from the ashes of the old fractured system. Admiral, Ambassador Kairoth joined him at the viewport, his face reflecting the satisfaction of a diplomat who had helped reshape the galaxy. The Andromedan Republic has just ratified the Mutual Defense Treaty. That makes it unanimous every major species has agreed to come to each other's aid if threatened by another shadow Leviathan. Kane nodded, watching as a massive Zephyrian battleship gracefully maneuvered alongside a delicate Andromedan crystal ship. 6 months ago, those two vessels would have been firing on each other. Now their crews worked together, sharing technology and tactics in ways that would have been unthinkable before Earth's intervention. Do you think there really are others out there? Roth asked quietly. Other ships like the Shadow Leviathan? Probably, Kane replied. The galaxy is vast, and there are always predators lurking in the dark. But they'll face something Blackthorn never did, a united galaxy that refuses to be terrorized. Earth didn't just defeat one ship, Kai. We proved that cooperation is stronger than fear, that unity is more powerful than individual strength. Legacy of Unity Captain Sarah Chun's final report became required reading at military academies throughout the galaxy. Her analysis of the Shadow Leviathan campaign emphasized the crucial lesson that would define galactic politics for generations to come. No threat, no matter how powerful, could stand against truly united opposition. The Shadow Leviathan was defeated not by superior firepower or advanced technology, she wrote, but by something far more powerful, the willingness of diverse species to put aside their differences and work toward a common goal. Earth's contribution to this victory was not our weapons or our tactics, but our refusal to accept that some enemies are too powerful to face. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their warriors, but their stubborn insistence that no problem was too large to solve if people worked together. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come, a reminder that even in the darkest void between worlds, the light of cooperation could drive away any shadow. Years later, when new threats emerged from the unknown regions of space, the galaxy was ready. The Galactic Cooperation Council's fleets responded with the same unity that had defeated the Shadow Leviathan, proving that Earth's greatest gift to the stars was not conquest or dominance, but the simple revolutionary idea that former enemies could become allies in the face of a greater threat. The age of terror was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And at its heart was humanity's unshakable belief that no matter how dark the void might seem, it could never extinguish the fire of unity that burned in the hearts of those willing to stand together. The galaxy would never be the same.